In 2007, the biggest bank in the world wasn't American, it wasn't Chinese, it was Scottish. The Royal Bank of Scotland's balance sheet had grown so enormous it was bigger than the entire economy of the United Kingdom. 18 months later, it had 30 minutes of money left. Britain had to write the largest bailout cheque in banking history, £45.5 billion, to stop every cash machine in the country going dark. This is the story of how a 280-year-old bank was destroyed in less than a decade. And at the centre of it, one man. An accountant from Paisley they called Fred the Shred. Fred Goodwin wasn't born into banking royalty. He grew up in Paisley, the son of an electrician, the first of his family to go to university. He trained as an accountant and he was good, ruthlessly good. In the 90s he made his name cleaning up the wreckage of failed banks and cutting costs so brutally that colleagues gave him the nickname that would follow him forever, Fred the Shred. In 1998 he arrived at the Royal Bank of Scotland, a proud, careful, profitable institution founded in Edinburgh in 1727. It had survived wars, crashes and empires. And in 2000 it's something outrageous. It swallowed NatWest, an English bank 3 times its size, in one of the biggest banking takeovers Britain had ever seen. The integration was a masterpiece, and Goodwin, who drove it, became chief executive. The city loved him. Analysts called RBS a machine. Remember that word, machine. Machines don't know when to stop. What followed was one of the most aggressive expansions in banking history. Acquisition after acquisition, more than 20 of them. Insurance companies, American banks, operations in China. RBS wasn't a Scottish bank anymore. It was a global empire and Goodwin ran it with total control. Executives described morning meetings so brutal they had a nickname too, the morning beatings. In 2005 the empire got a palace. A £350 million headquarters outside Edinburgh, opened by the Queen, with its own street, shops and executive wing. A year earlier, Goodwin had knelt before Her Majesty and stood up as Sir Fred Goodwin, knighted for services to banking. He was 50-something floors above the world. The bank's profits hit £10 billion a year. And here's the thing nobody wanted to say out loud. Almost nobody inside or outside the bank actually understood what it was now built on. In 2007, Goodwin wanted one more prize. ABN AMRO, the biggest bank in the Netherlands. Barclays wanted it too, and this became personal. RBS led a 3-bank consortium and bid €71 billion, mostly in cash, the biggest bank takeover the world had ever seen. Now look at the calendar. While Goodwin was hunting his trophy, the global credit markets were already cracking. In September 2007, British TV showed something not seen in living memory. A bank run. Queues around the block outside Northern Rock. The warning could not have been louder. RBS completed the ABN AMRO deal anyway, weeks later. And here's the detail that should make your skin crawl. For the biggest banking takeover in history, the due diligence RBS received amounted, by accounts given to Parliament, to little more than a couple of folders and a CD. €71 billion, 2 folders, a CD. Inside ABN AMRO sat billions in toxic American mortgage assets, about to turn to ash. Goodwin had just paid top price in cash for a bomb and emptied RBS's own reserves to do it. 2008 arrived like a wrecking ball. RBS begged shareholders for £12 billion in April, the biggest cash call in British history, and burned through it. In September, Lehman Brothers collapsed and the world's money markets froze solid. And on the morning of October the 7th, 2008, the unthinkable phone call reached the Chancellor of the Exchequer. RBS, the bank bigger than Britain, was hours from running out of money. Not months, not weeks. That afternoon, if RBS failed, every cash machine it ran, every payroll it processed, millions of accounts gone by Friday, so the British taxpayer did what no one had ever done, bought the bank, £45.5 billion for 82% of RBS. The empire that private ambition built now belonged to the public that had to rescue it. Months later, RBS announced the largest loss in British corporate history, £24 billion. One bank, 1 year, gone bust. Fred Goodwin resigned before the ink on the bailout dried, and walked away, age 50, with a pension of £700,000 a year. The public reaction was volcanic. Vandals smashed the windows of his Edinburgh home. Under pressure, he gave part of the pension up. And in 2012, something almost unheard of happened. The Queen annulled his knighthood. Sir Fred became, once again, just Fred. He has never given a full public account of what happened. He never faced a single criminal charge. It survived, but the Royal Bank of Scotland, as the world knew it, didn't. The company quietly renamed itself NatWest Group, the brand of the bank it once conquered. The British taxpayer only finished selling the last of its shares in May 2025, 17 years after the rescue, and roughly £10 billion worse off. A bank that survived 280 years of wars, panics and empires was broken in 7, by growth for its own sake, a rival it had to beat, and a deal nobody checked. Machines don't know when to stop. Next on Gone Bust, Scotland's most famous football club, 140 years old, loved by millions, liquidated over a tax scheme. That story is on screen now. Subscribe so you don't miss how the giants fall.